Today, let's talk about qualitative data. I'll teach you 4 different methods for collecting qualitative data in your organization. By the end of this video, you'll understand what qualitative data is, when you would need to use it, and practical ways to collect it. I'm Joanna. I'm an internal communication consultant and the author of Innovative Internal Communication. I'm also a qualified sociologist, so I have extensive training in social research methods. I'm here to demystify the world of internal communication and employee engagement. So do me a favour, hit that subscribe button down there before we get started. So here's a question I got from a follower recently. They said they're doing pretty well collecting quantitative data in their organisation, but they're really struggling with the qualitative side of things. So they have lots of metrics and clicks and open rates and percentages and statistics, but they don't really have any of the deeper insight into why all these things are happening. So they asked me, what are the different ways I could collect qualitative data, and when would I use it? When would I need qualitative data? This came up in a conversation I had with a client this week as well, who had a similar sentiment, and they just said, we just don't know the practical ways of how to do it. It all seems a bit mysterious. So let's unpack the concept of quantitative and qualitative data first. So quantitative data is numbers, it's statistics, it's figures, it's things that you can count. Quantitative data could be things like 30% of our employees use the on-site gym every week, or our weekly newsletter has an open rate of 65%. Quantitative data tends to answer the question what or how many. Qualitative data is different. It's more related to words and ideas and concepts rather than numbers. And qualitative data will try to answer the question of why rather than how many or what. And this is kind of what makes it seem a little bit mysterious to people. It's not hard like numbers or statistics. But here's my take. Qualitative data is super powerful. It can really unlock deep insights into what your employees are thinking and feeling and what they really experience inside your organization. Qualitative data is information that explores the why behind the numbers. So it looks at feelings and perceptions and motivations and ideas. Stuff that can't be very easily counted just with numbers. And qualitative data is usually based on observation and description rather than just statistics or numbers. So when would you want to collect qualitative data? You'd want to collect it when you need a deeper understanding of something that's happening at work. Let's look at an example. Say in your last employee survey, you find out that 54% of your employees don't trust the leadership team. So you've identified the what, which is the lack of trust. You've identified how much, which is 54%, but you don't know why. You don't know why they don't trust the leadership team. And it's that bit, that's when you need your qualitative data to understand why things are happening. And I'd add here that the 2 research methods, quantitative and qualitative, are not mutually exclusive. They're actually very complementary. What I mean by that is that it's often helpful to use both. So the quantitative data can often tell you what the issue is, and then the qualitative data can help you understand why that is the way it is and get those deeper, richer insights. So it's really helpful to use both of them together. Now, by its nature, qualitative research tends to be a lot more unstructured than quantitative research. So say, for example, you are running a quantitative survey with your employees. The questions are all predefined and the answers are pretty rigid. So employees may be selecting something from a drop-down menu or scoring something from 1 to 10. The answers are predefined in this way, which makes it very easy for you to analyse the results and make comparisons between employee groups. But qualitative research isn't like this. It's a lot more unstructured. So you may have a core set of themes to explore for some questions that you may want to ask, but there's a lot more room to explore insights as they emerge. There's room to allow unexpected topics to come up, and you can dig into them and probe and ask for more information. Now, because of this, it means that qualitative data takes a lot longer to analyse than quantitative data does. So when you go down the qualitative route, you need to be prepared for investing the time and energy and resources into doing the analysis. Now, in saying that, I think it's rarely a bad investment of your time, because the insights you will find out through qualitative research are so powerful and can really help you to drive evidence-based, meaningful change in your organisation. So now you know what qualitative data is, you know when you might want to use it. Now let's move into looking at 4 practical ways that you can collect it in your organisation. So let's look at semi-structured interviews, focus groups, observation, and open-ended survey questions. So the first method we'll go through is semi-structured interviews. So this is a one-to-one interview, just a conversation with one person that you have identified would be very interesting to speak to on a particular topic. Maybe they've been around in the organization a long time. Maybe they are someone that is very influential in a particular area, but you want to get a deeper understanding and insight into their opinions, thoughts and feelings on this particular topic. Semi-structured interviews, as the name would suggest, are not rigidly structured. So when you're holding this one-to-one interview with somebody, you won't have a fully rigid set of questions as you would if you were doing a survey. Rather, you will have an interview guide with you, which will set out the core topics that you want to explore and some of the questions that you might want to ask. Now, each interview you do will be slightly different. Some interviewees may not be able to answer all of your questions. Some of them may not want to answer all of your questions. And the beauty of allowing for the semi-structured interview is that your interviewee might say something that you weren't expecting or something really interesting, and then you have the scope to probe for more information on that topic, follow that down a rabbit hole and have a really good conversation about that issue that has come up. And the questions you will ask in a semi-structured interview are open-ended questions. So this means they don't have a yes or no answer. For example, you wouldn't ask somebody, do you like the employee assistance program? Because they'll just say yes or no. What you might ask instead is, how would you describe the employee assistance program? Or how do you feel about the employee assistance program? So these open-ended questions give your interviewee the opportunity to open up and answer the question and give you lots more information. The second method you can use to collect qualitative data in your organization is focus groups. A focus group is basically a semi-structured interview, but in a group setting. Now, you've probably been part of a focus group before, maybe you've run them before. They are a very common method for collecting qualitative data. Similar to doing a one-to-one interview, when you're doing a focus group, you're really trying to get underneath the why. You're trying to understand why people feel a certain way, why things are an issue or in your organization. So you're looking to explore people's feelings, perceptions, motivations, frustrations. And when you're running a focus group, you will have a focus group interview guide, which will set out the core themes or topics that you want to explore and some of the questions you will ask. Again, this will be semi-structured, so you have the scope to allow people to say things, to ask for more information about whatever interesting or unexpected thing that they have said. You've got that structure to explore. I will leave a link in the description below so you can grab my free focus group interview template. You can use that to run your own focus groups. Focus groups tend to consist of a group between 6 and 12 people and should be run by quite an experienced facilitator, someone who can manage the group dynamics, keep everything on track and make sure that they get the information they need in the time that they have. And ideally, the facilitator will be accompanied by an assistant whose role is just to record, take notes, capture observations so that the facilitator can focus just on engaging with the participants and listening very deeply. Something to be aware of is a focus group may not be the most appropriate method anytime you want to collect qualitative data. For example, if you want to explore a particularly sensitive topic or something that's controversial, people may not feel comfortable to speak truthfully about that in a group setting. So you might want to look at one-to-one interviews instead. Something else to be mindful of is the group dynamics. So if you have a focus group, you have someone in a very junior role, they may not feel comfortable to speak up really honestly if there are senior leaders in that room. So you just need to think about the group dynamics when you're planning out your session. The third research method you can use to collect qualitative data in your organization is observation. You will also hear this called fieldwork. Observation, it's going on watching people. It's going on observing people as they do their job. This is a really great method to understand the reality of employee behaviour rather than the self-reported employee behaviour. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. In the 1980s, there was a sociologist at Berkeley University called Arlie Hochschild. She wrote a brilliant book called The Second Shift, and she used a range of qualitative methodologies to do the research for this book. So she had a hypothesis. She wanted to test out her hypothesis that women were essentially doing a second shift of work after they finished their day's work. So she wanted to see if women were going out and doing a full day's paid work, then when they come home, they're essentially doing what she called a second shift of work, which is the cooking, the cleaning, the household management, the childcare, all of that. So she used a range of methodologies to test this out. One of those methods was interviews with married couples. So she sat down with loads and loads of married couples and asked them about the division of labour in their house. Who did what? And from this method, she found out that the division of labour was pretty equal. These married couples told her, oh, we share all the household chores, we divide up the childcare equally, it's very fair in this house. So this was the self-reported behavior. But she wanted to just interrogate this a little bit more because she was really, really clever. So what she did was she did another method. She used observation. So she spent time with a dozen families, basically just watching them. She went to their house and spent time watching them. Who clipped the baby's nails? Who's planning the meals? Who's cooking the dinner? Who's cleaning up after dinner? Who's booking all the doctor's appointments? She watched them at home. She had dinner with them. She followed them to the shops. She just observed them. And what she found was really interesting, because even though the married couples had told her, we split all the housework equally, what she saw and observed in reality was completely different. And what she observed was that women were in fact doing the majority of the housework and the childcare. So this was really smart, because can you imagine what her book would be like if she hadn't done that observation method, if she had just gone by what people had told her? So this is a really, really good method to get underneath the actual reality of people's behaviours. So in terms of how you could use the observation method at work, you can either do it in a planned way, so you could plan in advance to go and spend half a day with one of your frontline workers, or you can do it in an unplanned way. You can simply drop into a site or an office and just observe what's happening. So to collect the data using the observation method, what you're going to do is just document everything that you see and you hear during your observation. So what are people doing? What are they talking about? How are they interacting with each other? What job are they doing? What's frustrating them? All of this, write it all down, capture it. That is your qualitative data. And finally, the fourth way that you can collect qualitative data in your organization is by using open-ended questions in your surveys. So maybe you're already doing employee surveys, and usually your questions will be quantitative. So you'll be asking people to put their answer on a scale of 1 to 10, or you might be asking them to pick a drop down, or you might be asking them a yes or no question. But you can add in qualitative questions quite easily into your survey. These would be questions that allow the respondent to type their answer in free text. So questions might be things like, how do you feel about X? How would you describe Y? Or you could ask a question at the end of your survey, is there anything else you want us to know? And then let them type in their answer. So this is quite an easy method to use. It's probably the least time intensive in terms of collecting the data, but just to be aware that it doesn't give you the opportunity to probe and ask more questions when something really interesting is said in a comment. So you may actually need to follow up with an interview or with focus groups as well, depending on your understanding of what's been said in the comments. So there you go, 4 really practical ways that you can collect qualitative data in your organization. This will give you a deeper understanding of what your employees are thinking and feeling, and can help you build evidence-based recommendations for change. If you've got questions about any of this, or you want me to create more videos on qualitative data or quantitative data, drop a comment down below. I will read them all. If this was useful to you, please hit that subscribe button. I'll see you the next time, and stay curious.